Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome to Geezerology. I'm Scott. There's Bob up in Kansas City area. There's Dan is back with us in St. Louis area. I am, of course, down in Broward County, Florida, where it is hot and humid, and thank God for air conditioning. That's all I can say. I'm not in COVID quarantine anymore, but now I'm in heat quarantine. I'm in air conditioning quarantine. Okay, today we're going to talk about Bruce Springsteen's album, Darkness on the Edge of Town. This was his follow-up to the massively popular Born on the Run, which actually broke Springsteen to a wide audience. This came, a couple of years after Born on the Run, after some legal issues and had to get straightened out and things like that. So this was delayed, but finally, let me get this in front of me. It was released it was recorded from June 77 and March 78. It's been a long time recording that. It was released in June of 78. Bob suggested this because he wanted to discuss Adam Raised the Cain, the second track on the album, in relation to Father's Day, which is next week. So if you haven't done it yet, you better get out and get your cards and get them in the mail. I just put that on my calendar today as a reminder, as a matter of fact. But before we start talking about Darkness at the Edge of Town, Bob, what's in the news this week?
Well, I actually got a couple little things, kind of continuing my theme about concerts coming back. Garth Brooks announced a stadium tour, and Kansas City's Arrowhead Stadium is on that tour. Tickets for Garth went on sale Friday morning. They sold out within 24 hours. So Arrowhead Stadium has a capacity of at least about 76,000. So it's a sold out show. And he's doing a theater in the round thing. So they're going to be able to use all of the seating in the stadium plus a whole bunch of the field. And it's anticipated that he's going to break the previous record for a concert attendance that was set by, and let me dig through my notes. He's going to break Taylor Swift's stadium record, where she had an attendance of 58,611. And he's been in Kansas City before. He opened what was then the new Sprint Center, and he sold out 9 shows for a total of 164,000 tickets. And then he came back in 2017 when he sold out 7 shows for an attendance of 119,000. And I guess in, he did, he's doing an August 14th concert at Memorial Stadium in Lincoln, Nebraska. And they sold out that 86,000 plus seats in 75 minutes. So Mr. Garth is still a very popular man.
I was just sitting here thinking, you mean Garth Brooks is still a thing? I mean, I'm not a country music guy, obviously, but I wasn't aware that Garth Brooks was still a superstar. I thought his day was long past.
I thought the same thing, and I thought, he hasn't done any new music in ages. So I went online and looked this morning, and he's still releasing music, but obviously it's not good. At least I'm not paying attention to country music, but yeah, he is still an incredible draw.
Oh, okay.
And I was kind of astounded at this, because all this guy's got to do is every couple of years or so come out, do 3 or 4 stadiums, and go home with a few $100 million in his pocket.
Right.
And according to the Kansas City Star, tickets are now, they're actually trying to sell floor tickets for as much as $9,200.
Holy.
Now, I don't know if anybody's actually buying them or not, but so that's that. Then I had another little off the wall thing that I wanted to talk about real quickly. And earlier I did a little piece for our blog. I just kind of threw some odds and ends of stuff from rock history together. And one of them I wrote about Jimmy Page witnessing Shirley Bassey passing out when she was recording the theme song for the Bond movie Goldfinger. And out of a bit of nostalgia, I thought, I haven't seen the old James Bond movies in decades. So I went onto a streaming channel and I watched Goldfinger. And apparently James Bond doesn't like the Beatles, because there's a scene early in the movie where James Bond is in a motel with a girl, of course, and they have a bottle of champagne in an ice bucket. And Bond starts complaining because the champagne has gotten warm. So he goes over and he gets a new bottle of champagne out of the refrigerator. And he says, my dear girl, there are some things that just aren't done, such as drinking Dom Perignon 53 above the temperature of 38 degrees Fahrenheit. That's just as bad as listening to the Beatles without earmuffs. And, so Goldfinger came out in 65. So apparently somebody making that movie didn't like the Beatles, and they had, so that just kind of caught me by surprise when I heard them take that kind of a shot at the Beatles in the movie. I just thought it was an interesting bit of trivia. So I don't know whether it was Sean Connery didn't like the Beatles, or it was screenwriter, or who it was, but
it's probably the producer and screenwriter. They were from a little bit of different time. Although interestingly, in one of the Beatles movies, I think it was Help, where they played part of the instrumental, and it sounded like a James Bond theme, and then it went right into I believe it was Help. So.
Well, the movie wasn't the movie. It's been so long since I've seen it. Wasn't the movie Help actually a sort of a parody of James Bond movies, or spy movies in general? Yeah,
I don't know. It's been
it was just about them being the Beatles. They walk out on the sidewalk and all these teenage girls start.
No, that was A Hard Day's Night. Help was the one where they were in search of Ringo's. Ringo had lost one of his rings or something. Yeah, so they were so they were doing spy work trying to find the ring. I think if I remember correctly. I think it was not much of a plot. It was basically just Beatles being Beatles, but at least as opposed to A Hard Day's Night, which there was no plot at all, at least there was, they put together a little bit of a plot for Help. God, the good old days of movie going.
It was, I recall going to a double bill, was visiting my grandparents' house, and I think I had my brother with me, and we actually walked to a one screen theater called the Crest Theater, and I wanted to see Help, and then the movie playing alongside it was The Satan Bug with George Maharis.
The Satan Bug, was that a Volkswagen?
No, it was a series. No, I know. It was one of those kind of a takeoff on the Invaders series. The Satan Bug was.
I thought maybe it was the yin to the love bug's yang or something.
No, this was a serious drama, And,
okay.
Yeah.
Bob suggested that we discuss Darkness on the Edge of Town, and Adam raised a Cain for a Father's Day related discussion. So, Bob, I'll turn it over to you to tell us about this album and bring it around to the topic at hand.
Okay. Well, this is going to be highly personal, so you're going to have to forgive me for this. Bruce Springsteen and I share something in common, and no, we're not multi-million-dollar rock stars, but he had serious issues with his father, as I did with mine. And so a lot of what Springsteen writes really deeply resonates with me. And my dad was 41 years old when I was born. So we started out with a huge age difference and a serious generation gap issue. And my dad was prone to fits of rage and would just go from being a normal human being to a lunatic, just like snap your fingers. And I grew up really being terrorized by my dad. And there were many, many times when he would hold my mother and me hostage for hours at a time, screaming curses at us, He actually threatened us with knives and with a loaded rifle. And my dad told me many, many times that I was too worthless to be his son, that I had to be illegitimate. And he never endorsed or understood any of the things that I tried to do with my life. My dad stayed home from my high school graduation. He didn't come to the graduation from community college that I attended, and he didn't come, to the graduation from the university. And so I grew up with a serious love-hate relationship with my dad. I never wanted for anything materialistically, but the support, that I really wanted as a son was never there. So it caused some huge rebellions in me, and it caused me to live a life with a lot of self-doubt and all of that. And I've listened to some of Springsteen's monologues about, his dad, and apparently his dad also had maybe some mental issues. And for many, many, many decades in my life, I sort of kind of hated my dad. And it took a long time for me to kind of figure out what was going on with him. And it was after my dad died that my aunt started talking about how different my dad was when he came home from World War II. And I couldn't understand that because my dad was a non-combatant, but he did survive a bombing in North Africa from German Air Force. And after the bombing run, he was in a bakery outfit, and they had these huge field ovens, and he went to light it, and it blew up in him and put him in a hospital with a concussion. And based on the medical knowledge I have now, I think my dad suffered from a traumatic brain injury, and that it caused this huge personality change in him. And, as a medical provider, I've seen the effects people have with that. So anyway, that's a long story short to say that I grew up with serious father issues. And when I heard Darkness on the Edge of Town for the first time, and I heard Adam raised a Cain, it just resonated with me so much, because it got into the thing of the sins of the father being visited upon the son. Springsteen took the biblical story of Cain and used that, to get into the thing about father and son relationships. And there are lines in the song that just really speak so much to the life that I had with my dad. And especially like there's lines that daddy worked his whole life for nothing but the pain. Now he walks these empty rooms looking for something to blame. You inherit the sins, you inherit the flames. And, that so describes my dad. My dad financially was a success, but he got there through a lot of hard work. I mean, it's all my dad did was work. We never went on vacations. We didn't do anything like that. But my dad was also bitter. And and as much as I tried not to, I do see some of my dad in me, as much as I tried, to fight against that. So anyway, Springsteen has done several songs about father-son relationships. This was one of the first ones that really resonated with me. On the follow-up album after this, The River, he has one called Independence Day. And it's a song about the son, leaving home and moving away from his dad. And that one really resonated with me. And then later on, when Springsteen became a dad, the focus of some of his songs switched to his hopes for what kind of a parent he would be. So that's why Adam Raised a Cain really speaks to me on a very, very personal level. And a lot of Springsteen's music does speak to me not only about, father-son relationships, but about other aspects of life. And Darkness on the Edge of Town was kind of a departure for Springsteen, because Born to Run in '75 was his make or break album. And it turned out to be an incredible success. And then, as Scott mentioned earlier, Springsteen couldn't go into the studio for several years because of legal hassles with his manager. And when he finally did get into the studio, his style of music changed dramatically. He went from that wall of sound from Born to Run, to a grittier, starker type of music. And I think this album has the E Street Band just firing on all cylinders. A lot of great songwriting and some some standout lyrics about life. So that's kind of where I'm at initially with it.
That's a hard act to follow.
I barely scratched the surface of my
Yeah.
very convoluted relationship with my dad.
I mean, is this one of your favorite albums in the Springsteen pantheon, or are you familiar with his whole discography, or where does this fit in?
Okay,
as far as your music appreciation goes.
All righty. Okay, this is probably my number 2 Springsteen album. My number 1 is The River, which was the follow-up to Darkness on the Edge of Town. That is my number 1 Springsteen album, and that's a whole nother topic to get into. But The River has Independence Day, which is another one of his incredible father-son relationship songs, and the title song, The River, is another one of those that just speaks so deeply to my heart and my personal experiences. So that's probably my number 1 album. This would be number 2. So yeah, and I was like everybody else in '75. I bought Born to Run, and I liked it, and I liked it enough that I actually went back and picked up his 2 initial albums. But when Darkness on the Edge of Town hit, it elevated my opinion of Springsteen, because of, and I think one of the things that helped was that his songwriting changed dramatically, and Springsteen actually attributes his change in songwriting to a newfound appreciation for country music, ironically. And there's an old saying about country that is called 3 chords and the truth. And Springsteen kind of took a look at the country style of songwriting and started adapting some of that into his writing, dealing more with personal issues, real life, things like that. So I really gained a newfound appreciation for Springsteen lyrically. And it's probably lyrically sometimes more than music maybe that attracts me to Springsteen. Although I think the E Street Band is an incredible group of musicians that he put together, to back him up on here. But lyrically, it's my compelling thing with Springsteen.
Yeah. Well, as you know, as I've said before, it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm not having this reaction at all to Springsteen, never have. But one of the things with me is that the lyrical content is generally the kind of the last thing that I start looking into. I mean, the music has to speak to me first before I get into the lyrical content. And I've never got past the thing with Springsteen, to me, that it just some of it's okay, some of it's not.
Yeah, if I could, just throw in real quick, like Bob and I guess many other people, I did get the Born to Run album, and that, that he broke through the ceiling, made the cover of Time magazine and all that. And, I guess the producer at that time, John Landau, was trying to recreate Phil Spector's Wall of Sound, which they did, and, but Darkness on the Edge of Town is a strong follow-up. And in some ways, I think it's lyrically superior to to Born to Run, and then it knits together. It's kind of a familiar Springsteen theme, kind of an urban everyman facing life's travails, and he's putting down his reaction to it. And for me, this time period, I think his music is still fairly accessible, but kind of after The River, I don't know, his voice has gotten to me where I can, it's hard for me. I think his voice detracts from his lyrics. I mean, yeah. And it's, I know he's tried some things, And I think when he went with this album, it was more of a stripped down kind of a country. And I think new wave was starting to make a lot of influence at that time. So yeah, and it definitely definitely has its place. But as far as the entire Bruce Springsteen discography, yeah, I pretty much stopped listening to like the mid '80s. You know? So I don't have a deep well of knowledge with him, but I like this album. I like this album taken for what it is, and but I'm not a Rabid fan, but I think E Street Band, you know, I guess it's legendary about their live shows, 3 hours or whatever. I would not do that anymore, of course, unless I could bring my own Barco lounger, but you know, that's another thing. So yeah, I think it was obvious here. He tried to follow up on one of his influences, Woody Guthrie, at least as far as his approach to the songwriting. So
yeah.
That's my small take.
Yeah, some of the I was one of the purchasers of Born to Run also, and probably if I remember correctly, I probably bought it because of the hype, and I liked some of the album. I mean, let me go back here and refresh my memory on the track list in there. Like with Born to Run, I really did like. Well, yeah, I like the title song. I mean, now after all this time, the title song has kind of become one of those. You know, I've heard it so much that it's become a cliche. So it's like it's tough. It's tough for me to say that was a highlight of his career because it's become such a cliche. You know, and that's but. But Thunder Road, 10th Avenue, Freeze Out, Born to Run. As far as I remember, I really like that stuff. But as if I remember correctly, those are pretty much the tunes on that album where the E Street Band really just lets it all go, right? And Jungle Land, I kind of remember, but that was like, yeah, it was okay. But and I'm having the same reaction listening to Darkness on the Edge of Town, not being a Springsteen student, so I don't know the subtleties of what's going on here. But there are a few songs on Darkness on the Edge of Town that I do like, and I went and saw some live performances of some of these songs, and they're magnificent. They're magnificent live. But and like Dee mentioned, I'm not much of a fan. I don't like his voice much, but I think when the E Street Band you know, starts letting it all hang out and really gets going, the voice is just kind of part of the whole sound, and it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. It's not you know, it's just part of that sound. But I got to tell you, when he slows it down and starts doing stuff like racing in the street, a couple of these others, Factory, and where it's just basically like a slow song where he's where his voice basically needs to carry the song over a piano solo or you know, just a piano background or something like that. It's just I find it irritating. It's just you know, it to me it sounds like he's got marbles in his mouth. and he doesn't enunciate very well, and then he just gets so over the top emotive with the groans and the grunts, and he sounds like caged animals just screaming sometimes. It's like and that's the stuff Honestly, like that on side one on this album, Racing in the Street, for 6 minutes and 53 seconds. That's what you get for 6 minutes and 53 seconds. And that happens 2 or 3 times on every album, on every Bruce Springsteen album I hear. And to me, it's such a buzzkill. Give me Weinberg throwing out a fast rhythm, and give me and Springsteen. Springsteen plays a great guitar. He should do that more often. He should play lead guitar solos much more often. Especially after I watched a few of the video clips when they were performing live. The guy plays a great guitar. And get the big man blowing the sax, and Weinberg pushing it, and whoever's playing bass, get going, and Roy Batan, I guess, on the keyboards. And when they start getting a jam going, it's a great band, But when Springsteen just takes the spotlight and he's just carrying it with a slow ballad or something, it's like, okay, let's get on to the next thing. and it's probably the reason why I've never gone into Springsteen so much, because it's those patches that I dislike those songs more than I like the real E Street songs, the real good E Street songs. And I understand, I haven't studied, but I understand that like the next album, Nebraska, is my impression correct, that like the follow-up album to this, Nebraska, was one where it was just basically just Springsteen, Stark, and solo, and
very acoustic. Yes.
Or no, that wasn't a follow-up to Darkness. That was the River, and then the Nebraska. Yeah. And I just completely disappeared from Springsteen at that point. And then all of a sudden in 1984, with the with the new popularity of MTV, and then all of a sudden Springsteen, he was everywhere with the Born in the USA album, helped by Mr. Reagan.
And I've never understood how so many politicians got that song so wrong.
Yeah,
they obviously did not listen.
Well, you just hear the line "Born in the USA." He's "Born in the USA." That's all people hear.
Yeah, and if you listen to Springsteen's acoustic version of "Born in the USA," it becomes a completely different song. The rock version of it sounds jubilant, with that chorus and everything.
Right.
But when he does it as a solo acoustic number, it's a song that's obviously just filled with pain. So they listen to the chorus and nothing else.
Yeah. No, that's interesting, because it's that jubilant E Street band Bruce Springsteen that I really do like a lot. Mm-hmm. But it's that acoustic. Sad, nostalgic Springsteen that completely turns me off.
Yeah. And if you listen to Darkness on the Edge of Town, it opens with Badlands, which has got that rousing music to it.
Right.
And then Adam Raised a Cain is a total departure. And Springsteen says that he wanted that intentionally, and he likened it to, he said, if you're watching a movie where a couple's having a picnic and then suddenly there's an abrupt camera cut to a dead body, he said, I wanted Adam Raised a Cain to be that dead body, in the way that he did the song, the way he kind of just growled through it and put all of that intensity into it. And so you have some valid comments about Springsteen, Scott, and he's got some stuff out that I think I probably own every album, but there's a bunch of them that I gave one listen and never went back to.
Yeah.
So,
is that right?
He's got great highs and he's got great lows. This is one of the albums that I think was a tremendous one. The River. I love Nebraska. Human Touch, Tunnel of Love. You know, I don't listen to them. Born in the USA, I'm burned out on that song so much after hearing it so many times.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying. It's hard to really evaluate that retrospectively now because it's become Stairway to Heaven, basically.
Yeah. And you know, and so has
the cultural.
Yeah,
I was going to say the cultural impact of those songs just overwhelms anything musical wise.
Right.
But you know, but where I come from is I grew up in a small town. I grew up blue collar. You know, I didn't have the urban environment that you guys had. And so I grew up where there wasn't a whole lot to do except when I became a teenager, you know, to get drunk, drive cars and cruise the streets, you know, and Poplar Bluff was not a hotbed of sophistication. And so, you know, now Springsteen grew up in small town New Jersey, and yes, they were really close to New York. So it's not a out in the middle of nowhere type environment, but he grew up small town, blue collar also. So a lot of what he writes about, I can, you know, relate to my life. And, you know, when he talks about racing in the streets and, you know, I've got a 69 Chevy with a 396 and all of that, you know, that was the life that I knew. You know, I was part of that muscle car era, and, you know, all the guys had fast cars, and, you know, we cruised around town all night long because there wasn't much else of anything to do. So I don't want to glamorize that life, but, you know, it is the life that I lived. And when he sings about it, you know, I can relate back to myself. So it speaks, a lot of his stuff really resonates with me on a personal level. And yeah, there are excuse me, there are limitations to Springsteen's voice. And I agree, sometimes when he gets into the ballads and stuff, I do kind of want to, like, come on, Bruce, speed it up, man. You're not good at this.
I mean, there are a lot of people out there apparently enjoy that stuff. I mean, you know, for me, I mean, you know, I don't find any of that stuff entertaining. I don't, you know, it's like this long song about building a car and getting the girls and having drag races in the street, and just slow and plodding and everything. And then the stories of his youth, you know, it's just, it's not stuff that I find entertaining. So it does not resonate with me.
The one thing I wanted to ask Bob, you know, you talked about, of course, Adam raising a Cain. I don't, and I'm sure there is out there, but I can't think of too many other high visibility rock performers that address father-son issues like he did. If there's somebody else, I mean, set aside Cats in the Cradle,
Yeah.
You know, which is a little bit more, how should I say, a little bit more kind of a kinder view of father-son responsibilities. And yeah, I mean, those topics are uncomfortable, but that's, I think, one thing that rock does. It can look at all the sides of the cube of you know, human interrelations, you know, love, travel, father, son. It's just a pretty fairly a topic that hasn't been mined too much. So
well, is it Springsteen, is this a way to capsulize Springsteen, that or at least his approach to songwriting, which is really what we're discussing here, is a songwriting. I mean, does he use his songwriting basically as a substitute for a therapist's couch? Is that an accurate way to describe his songwriting?
I think there's something to that, because Springsteen has talked about you know, dealing with depression and issues like that. And so yeah, I think you're probably right. He's doing some of this as a catharsis, because if you look at, I think a lot of his music is deeply personal stuff, and you can trace that in his father songs. And there's an evolution there where he starts out where he's writing about the issues between father and son, which mirrors his. And then the fatherhood songs switch to him writing and singing about what kind of a father am I going to be? How am I going to raise my kids and stuff? So yeah, I think there probably is a catharsis thing here. And they say if you're going to be a writer, write what you know. And so the thing, the only example I can come up off the top of my head about father issues and would be Jim Morrison.
Yeah.
But he definitely, he claimed his parents were dead, and then.
I think his approach to that was to be sort of symbolic and oblique instead of straight on. That would be too easy for him. He had to shroud it in layers of
right. Yeah, he was
simple.
Yeah, and also I did read or hear something just recently where somebody said that his whole thing with, he said his parents are dead and he had no siblings or anything like that, that was actually a calculated move on his part to not to avoid press and fans and everything like
He
that.
wanted to shield them from the media.
Yeah, he wanted to shield them from attention, basically.
Yeah, that was his sister. And there's a new book.
Oh, that's right. That's why. That's where I read that. I read that on that article that I shared with you on his sister got all of his journals and released them.
Yeah. And apparently part of it was Morrison was thinking about trying to shield and protect his dad's Navy career.
Yeah.
So.
But it goes back to, for me, if he wants to, if he wants to do his therapy on a sheet with pen and paper, knock yourself out. And if you want to throw it in a song that sounds as great as Adam raised the Cain, more power to you. I love it. I want to hear it. But but on the other hand, when you put it in a song that sounds like racing in the street, it's like, I'll pass. To me, it's all what the music does.
Yeah, and I think in that regard, Springsteen, he writes from the first person. So did John Lennon. And other artists, they take more the observer.
Lennon actually had his moments of with stories about his mother, just like Springsteen with his father, right?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, that was the latest episode of Bob's Couch. We hope you enjoyed that.
Yeah, so I did my catharsis. So.
I think we just lost D somehow. Okay. Well, D, it was good to see you, buddy. Hope I see you again. There he's back.
Oh, okay.
He's back. D, we lost you.
Could be.
Are you there?
Because Tegan, our daughter, she's doing a video.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Looks like D might be gone. Oh, he's back. Okay. Come on back next week. I'm not sure what we're talking about next week, but it's all up to Marissa, Bob's daughter. She's going to join us for Father's Day next Sunday. In the meantime, check us out at Geezerology.com. We have a couple of new posts up there this week, hopefully one or two more in the coming week. And help us out. Help us out on our YouTube channel. Like us, share us, subscribe to us. We'd like to have your support. And we're going to come back and keep doing this and give you some discussions that hopefully you find enlightening. So anyway, for Bob, Dan, see you guys next week.
All right.
And check us out at Geezerology.com. So long, everybody.
Take care.